My name is Abigail Turner. I'm 31 years old, a fire captain in a mid-sized city, and I've spent the last 8 years running toward danger for a living. What's ironic is that I missed the most dangerous fire of my life because it didn't come with smoke or sirens. It came home with me, slept in my bed, called me baby. I love my job. I love my crew. I love the weight of the gear, the controlled chaos, the way fear sharpens into focus when someone else needs you to be steady. I always thought that made me good at reading people. Turns out, it just made me confident in all the wrong places. I met Asher Cole 2 years ago at a coffee shop near the station. He was dressed well, too well for someone killing time at 7 a.m., and he struck up a conversation like it wasn't rehearsed. When I told him I was a firefighter, he didn't gush or play hero worship. He just nodded and said, "That's intense. Must take discipline." That felt real. The first 10 months were easy, effortless. Asher brought lunch by the station sometimes. He laughed at the dark jokes my crew tells when we're decompressing. He posted photos of us with captions about strength and ambition and supporting powerful women. My mom liked him. My brother thought he was charming. I thought I was lucky. Then around month 11, something shifted. It started small, always does. He commented on my apartment first. "Your place is fine," he said, glancing around. "But I just imagined you'd live somewhere sharper." Then it was the neighborhood. Then the restaurants I picked. Then my truck. "I just don't get why someone as capable as you settles," he'd say, like it was concern, not judgment. When I pointed out that my job didn't exactly come with luxury bonuses, he smiled like I'd missed the point entirely. "People like us shouldn't live like everyone else," he said once. That sentence stuck with me longer than it should have. The lifestyle creep was subtle. Expensive dinners framed as connection, designer clothes framed as presentation. When I suggested cooking at home, he'd sigh and say I didn't understand how draining his work was, that he needed to decompress properly. So I picked up overtime, double shifts, holidays, nights when my body begged for rest. My lieutenant even asked if I was okay. I laughed it off. The first real crack came from my best friend on the crew. "Abby," he said during a late-night cleanup, "does Asher make good money?" I told him yes, I thought he did. He just nodded slowly, because his taste is expensive. I defended Asher immediately. Discounts, connections, timing. But the question stayed. At a family barbecue, Asher barely spoke, kept checking his phone, made comments about how professional people live differently. My mom noticed. My brother noticed. I didn't want to. When I brought it up later, Asher flipped the narrative so smoothly I almost admired it. "Your family doesn't like me because I have standards," he said. "They're threatened by ambition." I believed him. That was my mistake. Because while I was running into burning buildings, the fire in my relationship was already out of control, and I was the only one who couldn't see the smoke yet. I didn't realize how tired I was until someone finally said the thing out loud. It happened in the station kitchen on a Tuesday, one of those mornings where the coffee tastes burnt and everyone's boots are still damp from the last call. I was reaching for the sugar packets when Tony, my closest friend on the crew, leaned against the counter and asked casually, like he was talking about weather, "Abby, you and Asher split everything 50-50, right?" I blinked. "Pretty much." Tony didn't smile. He didn't tease. That's what scared me. "Then how's he posting first-class champagne and designer shopping bags like it's normal?" My stomach tightened. "He's good at finding deals," I said too quickly. "He has connections." Tony's eyes held mine a beat longer than normal. Then he looked away like he'd already done his job, and whatever happened next was on me. I walked out of the kitchen with the coffee still in my hand, suddenly aware of how loud my heartbeat was inside my chest. On my phone, I pulled up Asher's Instagram, his public one, the one he showed my mom, the one with clean photos and motivational captions. Nothing suspicious, just us, the station, the occasional sunset dinner. I exhaled. See? Paranoia. Firefighter brain, always scanning for danger. But later that week, my mom called. "Sweetheart," she said carefully, "Asher seemed distracted at the barbecue." "He was tired," I answered. "He didn't even ask about you," she continued. "Not once. He only talked about houses and neighborhoods and how people with drive live." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Mom, he's just ambitious." There was a pause long enough for guilt to slip in. "I'm not saying he's evil," she said softly. "I'm saying he doesn't sound kind." I hung up and stared at my apartment wall for a full minute, like the paint might rearrange itself into an answer. That night, Asher came in smelling like expensive cologne, sharp and sweet, the kind that doesn't belong in a normal Tuesday. "How was work?" he asked, already pulling off his jacket. "Busy," I said. "You?" Same, he replied, too fast. Then he kissed my cheek like punctuation. I watched him walk to the bathroom and thought, he didn't say where he was. He didn't say who with. He didn't say anything real. I told myself I was being dramatic. That was the second mistake, because the sightings started after that. Not the kind that explode your world in one moment, just little sparks, scattered around town, always happening when I was on shift. First, it was my neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, stopping me by the mailboxes with that tone older women use when they're trying to be polite about something ugly. Abigail, mija, she said, I keep seeing fancy cars outside, dropping Asher off. I laughed, because I didn't know what else to do. Ubers, I said, probably. She didn't laugh with me. She hummed. Not Ubers. Then my brother, Eli, texted me a screenshot of a story Asher posted. A glossy restaurant table, candlelight, a wine bottle I couldn't pronounce. Eli, this is on a random Tuesday? I wrote back, probably a work thing. But when I looked closer, I saw the reflection in the wine glass. A woman's hand, older, rings that screamed money, her nails done like a weapon. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. When I confronted Asher, I kept my voice calm on purpose. Hey, I said, leaning against the counter. Tony mentioned something weird. People keep seeing you out at expensive places. Asher turned, eyebrows raised, like I'd just accused him of arson without proof. People? He repeated. Who? I hesitated. That hesitation was all he needed. He smiled, small, tight. So now your crew monitors me? What? No, it's not like that. You don't hear how that sounds? He asked, his tone sharpening. Abigail, you're letting your friends poison your head because they don't understand what I do. What do you do? I echoed, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. Because sometimes I don't understand either. His eyes flashed. Luxury consulting, he said, like he was reminding a child of the alphabet. Networking, client relations. And these clients are dropping you off in expensive cars? I asked. He scoffed. God, listen to yourself. I can't believe you're doing this. He stepped closer, voice lowering, into something intimate and dangerous. You deal with tragedy every day. You're addicted to problems. You need a fire to fight, so you're making one. That line hit me like cold water, because part of me thought, maybe he's right. I backed down. I did. I told him I trusted him. I apologized for bringing it up. And Asher took the apology like it was proof he'd won. After that, he started doing things that felt small but weren't. He asked to see my phone more often. Not directly, never directly. Let me show you something, he'd say, then scroll a little too long. He'd glance at notifications when they popped up. He'd laugh at texts from my crew like they were a joke, your little firehouse friends. The third mistake was letting him make me feel guilty for being loved by other people. Then the name came up. It was Tony's wife, Sarah, who said it first. We were at a diner near the station after shift, and she hesitated like she was about to step off a ledge. Abby, Sarah said quietly, I don't know how to say this without sounding crazy. My hands froze around my water glass. Say it. Sarah's eyes flicked around the diner, then back to me. I saw Asher at the boutique downtown, she whispered. Not working, like meeting someone, a woman. My throat went dry. A customer? Sarah shook her head. No, not a customer vibe. He was touching her arm, laughing too hard, like he wanted her to feel special. I stared at Sarah, waiting for the punchline. But there wasn't one. And before you ask, Sarah added, voice cracking, it wasn't just any woman. I recognized her. I've seen her around the city events. Her name is Lena Hart. The name hit me like a match striking. I'd heard it before, only once, months ago, when Asher had been scrolling through old photos, and I'd asked who a woman was in the background. He'd shrugged. Just someone I used to know. Just someone. I drove home that night with both hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me upright. When I walked in, Asher was on the couch, phone glowing in his face. He looked up and smiled like everything was normal. Hey, babe, he said. You're late. I stood there, helmet bag still on my shoulder, my pulse roaring in my ears. Do you still talk to Lena? I asked. His smile didn't fade. It sharpened. Why? He asked, too calm. I swallowed. Someone saw you with her. And then he did it. So smooth I almost didn't catch it. He didn't deny it. He didn't explain. He attacked. Unbelievable, he muttered, throwing his phone down. This is exactly what I mean. You're letting people spy on me like I'm some criminal. I'm not. You are, he cut in, voice rising, pacing now. Your crew doesn't respect me. Your family doesn't respect me. And you, he stopped, pointing at me like I'd committed some offense. You're starting to look just like them. My chest tightened. Asher, I'm asking a question. And I'm telling you, he snapped. that I won't be interrogated by someone who's supposed to be my partner. He stepped closer, eyes bright with anger and something else. Fear, maybe. If you can't handle being with someone who moves in higher circles than your firehouse buddies, just say that. Higher circles. There it was again, the theme. The way he kept turning my life into something small. I felt my face burn. I'm a fire captain, I said, voice shaking. I save people. And I respect that, he said quickly. Too quickly, like he'd rehearsed it. Then he softened, reaching for my hand, squeezing it like warmth. But you need to trust me. You need to stop letting jealous people get in your head. He kissed my forehead like he was closing the argument. I should have pushed him away, but I didn't, because I was exhausted, because I didn't want to believe the worst, because love makes you protect your own delusions. That night, after he fell asleep, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying Sarah's words over and over, touching her arm, laughing too hard, like he wanted her to feel special. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was missing something. I felt like I was standing outside a burning building, finally smelling the smoke. And I knew the fire was coming for me next. The first solid piece of evidence didn't come from my crew, or my family, or even Lena. It came from a parking ticket. I was sorting mail on a rare morning off when I noticed something missing. Something that should have been there. The bright orange envelope I'd seen stuck under Asher's windshield a few weeks earlier. I remembered it because he'd complained about it for a full 10 minutes, pacing the kitchen and muttering about how this city loved to nickel and dime people. You paid it? I asked casually that night. He shrugged. Yeah, took care of it. But now, standing in the mailroom, it hit me. I'd never seen the charge. Not on our shared card, not in our account, nowhere. That afternoon, I ran into Mr. Pete, the building manager, while he was changing out a light fixture. Hey, Abby, he said, lowering his voice. Didn't want to be nosy, but I figured you should know. Your boyfriend's tickets? Someone else paid those. My heart dropped. Someone else? Yeah. Guy came by the office. Said he was handling things for Asher. Paid in cash. He scratched his head. Didn't seem like a friend. I thanked him and walked back to my apartment on legs that felt like they weren't fully attached to my body. That night, Asher came home late again. He was humming, relaxed, like someone who'd just been taken care of. I didn't confront him, not yet. Instead, I did what firefighters do when something doesn't add up. I investigated. I waited until he fell asleep, his phone face down on the nightstand, vibrating once with a notification that lit the room just enough for me to see a different username flash across the screen. Not his usual one, a private account. My chest tightened as I carefully picked up the phone. I knew his passcode. He'd insisted on sharing it months ago, said transparency mattered to him. The account opened easily. And just like that, my world cracked clean in half. Photos flooded the screen. Asher in designer clothes I'd never seen. Sitting in restaurants I couldn't afford on my salary even with overtime. Hotel balconies overlooking city lights. Champagne flutes. First-class airline seats. All posted during my shifts. Captions talked about soft life, being spoiled, knowing your worth. 52,000 followers. I felt sick. I scrolled further. There were comments from women, older, polished, confident, heart emojis, inside jokes, references to nights I knew nothing about. This wasn't flirting. This was a business. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I checked our shared credit card next. Cash advances. Large ones. Taken out during times I was on duty. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred, my brain desperately trying to find an innocent explanation that didn't exist. The next morning I called in sick. I didn't sleep, I didn't eat. Around noon my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Is this Abigail Turner? A woman asked. Yes. This is Marcy. I work at the boutique Asher used to be associated with. She hesitated. I'm sorry to do this over the phone, but I couldn't keep watching. My heart pounded. Watching what? Your boyfriend, she said quietly. He's been escorting clients. Wealthy women. It started as networking, but it turned into paid arrangements. The words hit me like a backdraft. He always told people he was taken, Marcy continued. Said it made him more desirable, more discreet. I closed my eyes. He used you as cover, she said. Everyone knew you worked long shifts. It made it easy. I thanked her and hung up, my hands numb. I should have confronted Asher immediately. But that week I was scheduled to receive the Medal of Valor. 3 kids, apartment fire, 3rd floor, collapsing stairwell. My whole family was coming. The chief, local press. I told myself I'd wait. That was the 4th mistake. The ceremony hall was packed. I stood in uniform, heart steady, posture perfect. The chief spoke about courage, about instinct, about the moment you choose to go in when everyone else runs out. Asher sat in the front row. He looked bored. While the chief described the rescue, Asher checked his phone, shifted in his seat, whispered something to the woman next to him, someone I didn't recognize. When they called my name, the room erupted in applause. I felt proud, grounded, real. And then Asher stood up. "I'm sorry," he said loudly, his voice slicing through the room, "but this is ridiculous." The applause died instantly. "You act like this is some big deal," he continued, gesturing around. "Running into buildings is literally her job. Real success is about providing a lifestyle, not standing around telling hero stories." Silence. I saw my mother's hand fly to her mouth, my brother stand halfway out of his seat, my crew freeze like statues. I looked at Asher, and for the first time in 2 years, I saw him clearly. Not charming, not ambitious. Empty. I stepped toward him, my voice calm, professional, steady. The same tone I use with panicked civilians who don't realize the danger they're in. "Copy that, sir." Then I turned and walked away. Not because I was weak, but because the fire was finally out. And I didn't need to stand in the smoke anymore. I didn't cry that night. That surprised everyone. It surprised me most of all. After I walked out of the ceremony, my chief tried to stop me. My crew closed in around me instinctively, a protective wall of turnout jackets and quiet fury. Reporters were already whispering. Phones were out. The moment was spreading before I'd even made it to the parking lot. Asher didn't follow me. That told me everything. I went home alone, hung my uniform up carefully, and sat at the kitchen table until the house went completely silent. No buzzing phone, no footsteps, no apologies. Around midnight, the text started. "Asher, you embarrassed me. Asher, you didn't have to make a scene. Asher, I was under a lot of stress." Not one message asked if I was okay. Not one acknowledged what he'd done. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop. Firefighters are trained to slow down in chaos. You don't panic. You gather information. You secure the scene. So that's what I did. I pulled credit reports, bank statements, pension paperwork, everything tied to my name. What I found made my stomach drop harder than anything before. There was a credit card I didn't recognize, opened 6 months ago, in my name, with my income listed, with my signature, except it wasn't my signature. $8,000 charged. Hotels, jewelry, private dining rooms. I felt something inside me go very still. Then I found the pension paperwork. Someone had started the process. Not finished, but close. One more signature would have given access to everything I'd built over 8 years of running into fire. He wasn't just cheating. He was preparing to take my future. I called my union rep at 6 a.m. By noon, I had a lawyer. By evening, I had confirmation. Forged documents, identity fraud, financial abuse. This wasn't a messy breakup. This was a crime. Asher showed up at the station the next day. That was his biggest mistake. He breezed in like he belonged there, dressed sharp, voice raised, just enough to draw attention. "I need to talk to Abigail," he said. "This is personal." Captain Morrison didn't even look up from his desk. "She's not available," he said calmly. "I'm her boyfriend." Morrison finally met his eyes. Not anymore. Asher laughed. Actually laughed. Like this was some misunderstanding he could charm his way out of. "She's overreacting," he said. "You guys are filling her head with nonsense." Morrison stood. "Sir," he said evenly, "you publicly humiliated one of my officers at a Medal of Valor ceremony. You are not welcome in this building." Asher's face twisted. "She wouldn't even be anything without me," he snapped. "I helped her look successful." That was the moment I stepped into view. The look on his face when he saw me wasn't remorse. It was calculation. "Abby," he said softly, changing tactics instantly. "We should talk, privately." I held up my phone. "My lawyer will be in touch," I said. "Any further contact goes through them." His mouth opened, closed. For the first time since I'd met him, he had nothing to say. The fallout was fast. Once the investigation started, the story unraveled everywhere at once. Other women came forward. Same pattern, same charm, same slow escalation. I wasn't special. I was just the one who finally stopped the fire from spreading. Asher was arrested 2 weeks later. Fraud, identity theft. Theft, forgery. When sentencing came, I sat in the back of the courtroom in plain clothes, my hands steady in my lap. He didn't look at me. When he spoke, he blamed everyone but himself. Society, expectations, ambitious men being misunderstood. The judge didn't buy it. Neither did I. 18 months. Restitution. Consequences. The day it ended, I went home and hung my Medal of Valor on the wall. For a while, I couldn't look at it. Now I can. Because that day wasn't about him. It never was. I saved 3 kids from a fire. And then, months later, I saved myself. The strangest part of everything wasn't the arrest. It wasn't the court dates, or the paperwork, or the way Asher's name slowly disappeared from my life like smoke finally clearing from a room. It was the silence. After the chaos burned itself out, my apartment became quiet in a way I hadn't felt in years. No constant tension. No subtle pressure to earn more, be more, live bigger. Just space. Just air. The legal process moved faster than I expected. My lawyer called it textbook. A pattern? A trail. Too many forged signatures. Too many identical victims. I wasn't the first. There was a school administrator who lost $15,000 to business opportunities, a real estate analyst who almost lost her house, a nurse who'd been weeks away from proposing before discovering the second credit card. Different cities, same script. We all sat in the same courtroom during sentencing. We didn't speak much, just nodded at each other, a quiet recognition of shared damage. Seeing the pattern laid out, stripped the last bit of self-blame from my chest. This hadn't happened because I was naive. It happened because he was practiced. Asher never once apologized. In his statement, he talked about pressure, about expectations, about how people like him were misunderstood. He framed himself as a victim of ambition, of a world that didn't reward men who wanted more. The judge cut him off. "I don't see ambition here," she said flatly. "I see exploitation. 18 months, restitution orders, permanent record." When it was over, I walked outside the courthouse and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. The financial recovery took time, but it worked. Fraudulent charges reversed. Accounts frozen. My credit score rebounded once the false debt disappeared. My pension was secured before any real damage was done. I stopped working overtime. Captain Morrison noticed first. "Good to see you taking care of yourself again," he said one morning. "You were burning yourself out." I hadn't even realized how bad it had gotten. My family relaxed too. Family dinners stopped feeling like landmines. My mom laughed more. My brother stopped watching my face every time money came up. It was like everyone had been holding their breath while Asher was around. Even Mrs. Rodriguez cornered me one afternoon by the mailboxes. "You look lighter," she said, smiling. "That man was heavy." She wasn't wrong. A few weeks later, my chief asked if I'd be willing to speak during our department's financial wellness training. "Firefighters are targets," he said. "Stable income, predictable schedules, good benefits. Your story could help someone." I agreed, standing in front of my crew, telling them what I'd missed. The guilt tactics, the lifestyle pressure, the isolation. I watched recognition ripple through the room. Nods, tight expressions, quiet understanding. Afterward, 3 people pulled me aside. They were dealing with versions of the same thing. That's when I realized this story wasn't just about me anymore. Asher tried to contact me once more before reporting to serve his sentence. A letter passed through official channels. He wanted closure. He wanted me to understand. I didn't respond. Some things don't deserve conversation. Now my Medal of Valor hangs in my living room, not as a reminder of humiliation, but of clarity. I ran into a burning building and saved 3 kids. Later, I walked away from someone who was quietly burning my life down. Both took courage. Only one required me to finally trust myself.